So this is the LP1 interim working group, and as usual, we leave a little bit of time for the laggards to join, and effectively we are missing one chair for now. Too fast.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Pascal and Alex, do we have a scribe for today?
No, if yes, I'll be calling for a scribe, and I'll do some scribing as well on my side. But yes, if somebody can help taking minutes, you know, the note-taking tools, notes.ietf.org, that we are using, please join and help taking notes. I know the usual suspects, usually Anna and Dominic help, but Dominic won't be with us today, or he will be partially with us because he's attending 2 meetings at the same time. So I'll be taking notes, and if someone can help, please be my guest and help us. And then, as usual, you know, you're always welcome to help as well.
I'm lazy. Can you share the link, Pascal?
Sure. Okay, so it's in the minutes, but I will.
Otherwise, I try it.
Sure.
Go to find it.
No, so that's. I think it's on the next slide anyway, but I will copy a link effectively.
So we have it as well anyway on the Meet Echo. If you look about the icons on the top right, this is the third one starting from the left, the one with the fence.
True, but if you pick it from there, you have to share your screen, so there are pros and cons. Let me just copy the link on the chat, so you can do either way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pascal. And today with me, I have a new IETFer, Michael. It's his first IETF meeting, so he still has not set up his, IETF ID and all that. But I'll add him to the blue sheets as a presenter. To the blue sheets. Let me.
Okay, and I guess we are going to start. And I see that Dominic has joined. So thank you, Dominic, for being even partially with us. So this is an IETF meeting. So as the not well, as usual, apply. So if you're aware of any IPR that was not disclosed in what we'll be discussing today, please let us know or refrain from mentioning that IPR. And the anti-harassment and code of conduct best practices also apply, as all of the BCPs listed here. So if you see some bad behavior, please contact the chairs and the ombuds team. The ombuds team link is given on this page, and that's the people who will help you figure out what the situation is and if there is effectively an harassment situation that we need to deal with. So this meeting is recorded. Minutes are taken on notes.ietf.org. CodeMD. The presence is logged automatically by the Mitigo tool, and actually the minutes link is wrong. It's 09. We're on meeting 09, so please use 09 instead of 07 on the link that you can see here. So agenda for today. So we'll go through the Elvis trivia as usual, and we'll have a little bit on the rechartering, so asking mostly people to think about what the rechartering items are or could be, and start discussing on the mailing list. Then Laurent will tell us about the data model reviews. So there are a good number of ISG reviews already on the data model, and Laurent has questions to answer, so he will explain that. Then we'll talk about the NB-IoT draft, and I just submitted a new version, and there are comments from Eric, and also a discussion about the relationship with 5G on this, well, with 3GPP on this draft. So whether it's a normative draft or if it's just informational, depending on how we deal with 3GPP. Then we'll have the LP1 convergence research work by Sergio. Sergio would like to share with us some of his work and results about converging using SHIC. Then we'll have a brief status on the SIGFOG draft. As you know, there is one which is shepherded by Anna and one by Alexander. So we will basically see where we are with those drafts. And then, if time permits, we'll discuss a little bit more on rechartering. And I see that Laurent has the hands raised. So Laurent, please.
Yes, I think we should also talk about the architecture. So because the draft has expired and we need it.
The architecture draft has expired? We published one some time ago. Okay, let me look at offline, but there were a number of recent changes on the architecture where we hinted how we deal with the device versus application side, depending on how you start the shake over foo. So and I think that's pretty recent. I mean, was that already 6 months? Okay, but what else would you like to discuss about the architecture? Do you have more topics that you want to fit in? Oh. Would you like to put new items?
I think one point I identified last time during the last IETF meeting is how we will identify the node, how we will name it. So through an array or through something else. So I think it's something important when we want to generalize the SHIC model.
Okay, so we need to have a thread on the mailing list. What I do when I did the architecture is I kind of see a consensus on the mailing list, and once we seem to agree on something, then I write it down. So this was not really discussed on the mailing list yet. So please, Laurent, if you can drop an email, and we'll do a thread over it, and then yes, we will update the architecture with it.
Thank you.
So the action items that we had 2 action items, basically about 2 drafts. So one is the SHIC over SIGFOX, and the other one is the compound hack. So Sergio was to publish a new SHIC over SIGFOX, and that was done, actually 3 of them since we took the action item, 10, 11, and 12. And so 12 addresses the shepherd review by Anna. Sorry, why do I have start working group? Yes, no, the working group last call was done already, right? Or not? I'm confused now. No, it was not done. Anna, please, go ahead.
Yes, no, we have not done the working group last call, and I think that's one of the things I will add in the presentation of the shepherd, is that for me it's ready for the last call.
Okay.
So we can see that later, but we will see it now. We can start the last call for this draft for SIGFOX for my part.
Okay, so that's very neat. So we'll discuss more at the end if we find time. But at least we have your point that you feel the draft is ready for workgroup last call.
Okay.
And then there was the Compound Act. There was to be a round trip between Dominique and Sergio, and that number of round trip have effectively happened. Last I saw was Dominique saying, if I read you well, we are in agreement, and I didn't see Sergio saying yes, but I expect that means that you effectively are in agreement, which means that the ball would be in your hands, Alexander, for the Shepherd review and send.
Yes, so I started I started the review. It's not yet complete, but I will finalize it by the next interim. I will publish it by the next interim, which is in 2 weeks' time. And I mean, it looks good, so I expect no issues with it.
Okay, so we know where the ball is, and so we're cool.
Yes.
So workgroup status, nothing much. So we are. I would say we are a bit late versus the Chic over Sigfox, but then again we know where we are, so we'll have 1 year off basically. And the milestone about the ping and OAM, that one we have not started work, so we'll have to decide probably by next IETF or so if we keep this milestone or if we drop it. And then the current work, there is only one draft which is pending, one personal submission. That's the mesh thing, Laurent, that you discussed last time. The documents that we have are well advanced. So the architecture is not obsolete, Laurent, but I mean, I'm cool to update it. So I was kind of surprised that you said it was, but no, because we have updated it in June, end of June. And that's when effectively we discussed this prime of who is the device side and who is the application side. For instance, when you start a connection, like a PPP connection, the starter would be the device, by definition, something like that. When you have a hub and spoke situation, like Bluetooth, then the hub would be the application side. We kind of derive it from the environment, unless there is some external signaling. Compound Act, we just discussed it. NB-IoT, Anna will present to us, but basically we have a review by Eric. We are in the AD evaluation right now. Young data model, we are going through the ASG, and as you can see, there are a number of reviews, and there is already one green, which is good, and now we have two red, including young doctors. I don't know why it's not clear, but Laurent will explain. And then, as I said, I would like to discuss rechartering. So basically, just to give a hint of where we are, we discussed two main subjects. One of them is Chic over Foo, and the other one is protocol extension, and the one that stands out is FEC. So initially, it was the next hop or next header, and then we realized that this doesn't fit in here, but Robert has ported it, and the document is being adopted right now. So the next header value is not our business, but the FEC technique as another fragmentation or reliability method would be very interesting for us. And probably that one is within chapter, by the way. And that's it for this. Laurent, do you want to get the ball and share your slides?
Let me remember how it works.
I can also share them and send
Okay,
them
share
to you.
it.
I do it?
Yes,
Okay.
do it.
Okay, so
Okay, so I will present the review we got from ISG. So next slide.
give you the ball.
I can do it? Okay. Yeah. So almost all the comment has been done, and you have a file now in repository that tells you the status of all the comments. So there is some that are not closed, but most of them are closed. So I sent 2 weeks ago a message on the working group, on the mailing list to get comments, and I didn't get any answer. So I will want to take the opportunity of this presentation to start discussion on some points that are not for me very easy to solve. So just to give you an update, so now we have a draft 17 and a new young data model with the date that is shown on the slide. So, as you say, it's not catastrophic. We have a lot of green or almost green, and we have only two red and to discuss. So that's what I would like to do now, is to discuss what cannot be solved easily, at least for me. So the first comment was about giving some example at the end of the document in annex. So it's something that is not too difficult to do. If I take some data from OpenShift, for example, here what I can add to the document is, for example, these rules that represent the three rules type of rules we have in Chic, and in very, very small typo here, you have the young data model in other data in the young data model or in JSON. So I can add this and maybe do some editing because it's a little bit long, but this way it helps developer to work on the data model. So do you agree on this?
It looks neat, Laurent. I'm just confused by what do you mean by 6/3?
Where it's the rule, so you have the rule ID 6 and the rule length is 3 bits.
Okay, it's ideal.
So in fact, in OpenShift, you see you have the rule here, and then you have the binary representation on the left-hand side, which is 110.
And by the way, Laurent, usually the example in RSC are done not in JSON, but in XML. Just with more confusion to it, right? But at least you get thousands of pages for free.
Yeah, but I need to put it in XML, or we can keep it in JSON?
I don't will object if you do it in JSON, but if for you it just take half an hour more to find the right tools, I would do it in XML.
Okay, because in fact XML is I think is useless, because what we want is to go to the core conf representation, and the core conf representation is closer to JSON. So I think for a developer it will be more helpful to see the JSON one, but I can try to do it in XML. Okay, so the other point is about sensitive and sensible, and so it cost me already a bottle of Shushen about that, and it was not correct in the document, but I did it now, and so we have for the draft 15 we have some comment, and now for draft 17, so there is a question: what be the impact of attacker reading the module? So that's something that for me it's very difficult to talk about security in this document, because what we are doing now is just to put what was written in 8724 into a young data model. And the security part and how we will access to the rule and all these things are not yet defined and will be defined in the architecture draft. So that's something that I think we don't have to wait for the architecture draft to publish this young data model. Otherwise, we will delay a lot of things. So we have to find an equilibrium on that. And for me, it's not very easy to do that. So if you have some idea to help me to write some good thing on the security point, it would be very useful.
Wait, Laurent, on this one, based on other thing, there is indeed the wiki page there, right? Where you can copy and paste the text. I don't remember what you did it already. And there is nothing. So, okay, and there is nothing wrong to write, yes, if you have read access to the rules and the configuration, then you can decode the traffic, for instance, and so on. Basically, the security consideration can say, if you have access to the channel, everything is broken. I mean, that's not nice, but it's good enough to approve the RSC, right? What Roman wants to say is not a bulletproof text claiming, yeah, we fixed all the problem. No, you need to provide Roman and the others a list of the pending issue, and there could be a long list. Don't need to address them. Security issue, I mean, right?
Okay, fine.
So don't overdo it, basically.
So here it's what I say, and that's why I say that the architecture draft has expired. It was before June. Sorry for that. The other thing we have, and that's the same. Sorry?
You said that. I said, don't do it again.
So the other thing is that we have to talk about, we expect to follow NAMC, NACM, and associated response. And so here, for me, it's almost Chinese, even if it's young. And I think same thing, these things should be defined in the architecture document. So we have to see, as you say, we can say that there is no access. This document doesn't look at access, and the control of access will be defined in the architecture document.
But I think on this specific one, on the previous slide, it's also covered into the template, the wiki template, right? For young models.
Okay. So here we have other comments that are not so critic. So yes, the first one was to say that we define a lot of identifier in the young model, and it says that you can use a feature to separate, to make them not available or useful, or to put it in other modules. So for me, I don't think it's really an implementation issue, because what we will have is just numbers or identifier, and if the young model or the implementation using this young model doesn't recognize an identifier, it will generate an error. So it's not because you have things in the young data model that it leads to have an implementation with it. So that's something also we have to discuss. So originally we had two files. One was with the identifier, and the other was with the containers, and we merged them. And it's difficult then to say which field will be useful or not, because our goal also is to, if we use all these identifier, is to augment the young data model. And for example, if someone wants to do MQTT compression, then he will write his own things on. This is out of our scope. So for me, I will say that we keep it like this.
So just one question here. So the way I understand it is that the reviewer here proposes that we have like a feature IPv6, and then beneath it all the fields, like all the and then feature co-op, and then all the fields and so forth.
Yes, but I think it becomes very heavy to have this. We have already two features. One is compression and fragmentation, and it has a sense because if you do SHIC at the application layer, you will not have fragmentation. And if we look at the Ericsson document about how to send a long document in using fragmentation, we don't have compression. So here it's two flavors of SHIC. Here identifier are just number. So I don't see why we need to put it as feature.
So I mean, I understand your point, and I mean, this is the first time I see this type of reasoning, and actually, for me, it makes some sense to say, well, you know, I have a device and it supports compression and it only supports IPv6. So I have the feature compression and the feature IPv6. I think that in practical terms, it doesn't change anything, because, but from Yang perspective, maybe it changes, right? Because if then the Yang some Yang engine can automatically determine that, hey, well, someone is sending, let's say, a field ID that belongs to co-op, but the device doesn't support co-op at all. So then you can have this type of validation done based on only on the Yang module. So I mean, for me, it would make sense to have this type of like a feature IPv6 and then the fields of IPv6 that are within that feature.
Yes, but after that, we don't use it. It means that we have a field ID, and the field ID has the base entry. So it says that it's a field ID, but it doesn't say it's a field ID for IPv6. It's a field ID for co-op. It just use the more generic type that says just field ID. So if we do that, we just avoid, and I don't think that it changed a lot, because when we will generate the seeds, we have the identifier, and when we generate the seed, they don't care about features.
Yeah. So this is where I say that it doesn't. Yeah. So 100% agree with you, and this is why it doesn't change anything from that perspective. Then again, when you create the configuration, let's say for a device, you can say, well, the feature compression is present, and the feature IPv6 is present. So I mean, so here maybe you can ask. So this is my personal feeling is that you can ask, hey, well, do you feel strongly about these features thing? And if the reviewer comes back with yes, I mean that's something that would really make it more clear from Yang perspective, then I mean I see from operational point of view there will be almost no difference, right? And yeah, I like it in some way. Like I like it in some way. You can say that every additional protocol is a feature protocol name, and then you have the fields beneath, and it's, you know. But I have no strong feelings about this. But I understand the logic behind the comment. So yeah, I mean,
we are behind. We need to move on.
Okay, so I go quickly. So here we have the something that is quite linked. It's that we don't, in the young data model, we don't make test on the field ID and say, for example, if you have a field field ID IPv6 version, and we don't allow, for example, the length to be token length. So for me, it's become very heavy to do that. And I'm not sure that when we augment the model and we say, for example, token length is just used for this kind of things, if someone augments it, then this augmentation will be refused through that test. So I don't know if it's very useful to do that. So we didn't go that far in testing in the young data model. So maybe we can discuss that on the list. So the other point is, yes, they talk about negotiation of the compression mechanism, but the fragmentation mechanism, but in fact, we don't need it because we will not say a rule will be first fragmentation and then will be hack always and then will be hack on error. We don't do that. We can change parameter inside the rule to say now your tile length is that, but we don't change the behavior of the rule. So I don't think it's useful to have a set of operator state defined. So here, okay, I skip. It's not important. Here, something I will do, that's a good point, is that now we have no test. For example, when we are, the comment is not totally true here, but in fact, it's when we have, for example, ignore or LSB or matching list, we need to have something in a target value. And for the moment, we don't have this kind of test, and I will add it to the young data model. And here it's just a sentence, it's not important, so I will skip it, and I will do it. And I think that's almost done. I don't see this slide. Yes, the important thing is that we have this reference to the architecture. So the question is, do we keep the reference to the architecture? Because if we do it, it means that we will delay a lot the publication of the young data model. So for me, we have to remove it.
Is it a normative reference or informational?
We can select, or we can say it as
you're only delayed it.
Go on, Pascal. You're asking the same thing as me.
You say it better, Eric.
Okay. We cannot select whether it's informative or normative, or whether we want delay or not delay. I think an architecture is informational, right? So it's very difficult to put a normative reference into the data model to something which is informative or like an architecture. It's typically informative reference, an architecture document. It's something that's useful to read, and that's it. And I guess at that point of time, that's maybe because it was expired, right?
Yes. And so I think...
So Laurent, your document will not wait for the architecture to be published if it is.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
So, but if I keep it informational, we can keep a draft in the reference, or we have to wait for an RFC?
You can have a draft. You can have a draft informative, no problem.
Okay, perfect. And the last point, I think it's not so important, or it's the same issue. Sorry, Anna, it's white. Okay, it was and here there is just a detail is that we have two choices that are not used, but for me they are important just because if someone wants to augment NOAC or hack always, he has an anchor to do it and will not invent his own representation. So that's why I think it's it's better to keep it in the model, even if it's empty and it costs nothing in terms of representation. That's all.
So there is nothing really bad, right? I mean, you seem to have answers to pretty much everything. Is that true? And with Eric's help on the security, with what Eric said, you seem to have answers to your questions, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. If I understand things.
So thank you very much, Laurent. And I guess we need to move on. So that's the next is Anna, if I remember well. And then I will give you the ball.
Okay, thank you. So we received a review from Eric, and okay, next slide where I put it there. Okay. Thank you, Eric, for your inputs, and we have 4 points to discuss with you today. So the first one is about the status of the document. I think we have already discussed a little bit some interims ago, but now the question is about do we leave it a standard track or we change it to informational? And maybe it's depending on how 3GPP will take this document.
A little more. There are 3 use cases, right? So 2 are basically for the infrastructure of 3GPP. So we can be informational only there because we cannot dictate all they run the network. But on the application layer, what you call end-to-end,
Yeah,
we can be standards there because 3GPP is just used as a transport, right? So we don't care what we are doing below, my understanding at least. So we may want to go for standards track, propose standards, and be very clear in the sections, I don't remember 5.1 and 5.2, I think.
yes.
That's where you talk about using SHIC inside the 3GPP network. You say for informational only, right? And then when you go to 5.4, if not mistaken, when you talk the end-to-end or the application stuff, you say normative after the title, and you are very clear there.
Okay.
And you may want to say in a few things where you describe the 3 use case, you say this document will be informative for this use case, this document will be informative for the second use case, and for this one end-to-end, this document is normative.
Normative. And then the global document, I leave it in the standard.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
So we see how it
I will
goes.
change that on the next version. The second point was in the abstract. So perhaps I have to change it, but I only add that 3GPP and NB-IoT can be improved with SHIC. But perhaps here I can also add that some parts are informative and informational, and some parts are
No,
no.
and I will not go into many detail in the abstract, must be short, except there is in the middle in the new text, may adopt, and not no, may adapt. I don't know, right? It's adopt most probably you mean.
Yeah, sorry, I make a mistake there. Okay, yes. Okay, I will change the abstract too. And then here is what you are telling. Then we have 3 use cases. The first 2 use cases are using really SHIC in the 3GPP architecture, so in the radio link and in the non-access stratum. So they are more informative. And then here the question is about the name or the title of the third use case, where we are where the 3GPP network is transparent and we are using SHIC over there. So do you prefer to call it end-to-end compression as it's today, or we rename it by application compression, or if we put it more in the 3GPP language, will be use of cheek over the non-IP data delivery, or
No, I mean, on this one, typically you do whatever you want, right? I mean, it's really up to the working group, because end to end, when you have network on top of other network, you don't know where the end is really.
yeah.
So that's my issue with the end to end. You can leave it like this, but it's kind of confusing, and it's not really clear. I mean, the two first one are now very clear. They are normative, right? They are for 3GPP. This one is normative for use by application or whatever. I think that's really open to the working group to decide on this one.
I like chic over need. You're very, very specific on where you use chic.
Okay. If for ETF it's understandable that need is application, because need is a 3GPP term.
Your document shows the pictures and everything, so you're very clear on what need is. So
Okay,
it's self-contained.
good. So I can
And
check
it's fine
it.
for me as well, obviously, right?
Okay. Great. So then the last part is for the capillary gateway. So yes, it's a capillary gateway, and I put the definition just after the use of capillary gateway. I don't know if that's more clear, or you prefer that I define capillary gateway inside the paragraph.
There is a section about terminology, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I think
Yeah,
that's the best
okay.
place to define.
Okay, I can leave there. Okay, so I eliminate here.
Yeah.
So
and by the
that's
way,
how,
Wi-Fi is written Y-Fi, just to
okay.
be picky-nicky.
Okay, so I changed that. That was all the slide I have.
Thank you, Anna.
So
Yeah,
I will publish next, as soon as I have this modification. I publish version 11. And the question is, how does we are going to work with the 3GPP, or they are going to ask us, or?
Yeah, so that's the good question, right? So for 3GPP, we have a liaison manager, which is Gonzalo from Ericsson.
Yeah.
Edgar, I don't know whether you are in the call.
No, he cannot come today. Yeah, he's not able to come today.
I was about to ask if there is anybody working for Ericsson. You can contact Gonzalo maybe by some chat or internet chat to see whether he's ready to go. Because normally we should go through him. Now, if he does not reply or whatever, then it's up to the chair, so Pascal and Alexander, to send an email, putting Gonzalo in CC, putting a statement at IETF.org in CC. And now we need to find a destination person in 3GPP to send it. That's why Gonzalo input will be very nice. And basically, in this email, we simply tell, hey, 3GPP, in better wording, of course, hey, 3GPP, the IETF has worked on this. We are in IETF last call. If you want, please comment. And that's it, right?
Okay. I can ask Edgar if he can contact Gonzalo.
Yeah, just a ping, right? Gonzalo, can you have a look at this, or would you suggest to move? I send an email to you, right, Anna and Gonzalo?
Yes.
You can forward this to Edgar, maybe.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
No, thank you, Anna. You are doing the job.
That was my last.
Eric, just one minor question. What was the name of the mailing list to put that copy at the IETF.org?
If you look about, I think it's statement at IETF.org. I can double check. If you look anyway, so IETF liaison, you will find the address.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
and the next will be the Sergio. So Sergio, you won't have that much time. So it's up to you. Do you want to go straight to the Sigfox draft and present the convergence next time, or do you want, like, you have a bit more than 5 minutes if you want them now? Sergio. Yes. So
hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
I can present a little bit of the convergence so you can get an idea and we can continue discussing the draft. Also, we already have some idea about the CHIC and the compound of draft as we discussed earlier. So I will just...
Okay, I give you the board straight away since we don't have that much time. Please go ahead.
Okay, so this is what I have been doing some research about. In this case, well, the problem is that you don't have one IoT technology that fills all the use cases. I will go really fast. That's a problem mostly for IoT applications and developers, that they are really tied up to L2 specification, mostly because energy optimization. Because of that, we have also CHIC and IP version 6 to do all this convergence at the application level. And you have actually two options on how to do this convergence. I mean convergence using the same application on several networks. One option is to use CHIC over a specific LPWAN as Sigfox, LoRaWAN, or narrowband IoT. In this case, it's depending on the layer 2. Or we can use a CHIC overall that is actually independently of the layer 2. We have in these two sites, if a CHIC packet, for example, is sent over a specific LP1, you must begin and end sending this packet in that specific LP1. When you have nowadays multiple radio embedded systems, you will require multiple implementations of the CHIC fragmentation reassembly sublayer. And if you have in the backend, you will also have multiple implementations. If we use that same CHIC overall, independently of the layer 2, you can have you can actually send different tiles in different LP1 networks or different networks even, and because, well, the difference is in the number of tiles probably and the receiver sending logic, and you probably will have a small adaptation, but you can use the same code in the backend. In that sense, as more technologies have been adopted or implemented, they will want to use CHIC. So we will be having more and more documents of CHIC over specific technologies, and we will probably have a compatible standard that is incompatible at the fragment layer. You cannot reassemble a packet if it comes from different LP1 technologies. So with some adaptations, we can actually orient this to have the same header. I will go really fast in 2 minutes. This is the actual, what we have right now, that we have several implementations in different places. The idea is to have the same implementation, so you can have the same reassembly, fragmentation reassembly, as you have the same compression decompression. You will need some logic to select which is the network and the number of tiles that you will need, and you will probably need some logic to obtain the JSON file from the CHIC fragment. I actually compared these fragmentation modes, the uplink Akun error, to see what they have in common and what are the differences between the three of them, because obviously we can use what we already have. Going into these two, actually we see that they have a lot in common. I will move really fast. You can see there that we have actually the same tile size, that is a huge advantage, and the same size of the headers. So we can actually define and CHIC overall standard that is based on what we have now, differently as the LoRaWAN standard and the Sigfox is a number of tiles per window. In this case, the proposition is to use more windows, because now with the compound act, we can actually have more windows per act.
So, I don't know if you see, but there is a question by Laurent. If you
Yes.
look at
Yes, Laurent.
I can wait the end, but just a precision, it's you want to send all the fragments on the same technology, or you want to share the fragments on different technologies?
I want to send the fragments in different technologies. Actually, The example that I have, I will go through is this one, where you actually fragment the packet. Sorry. And then you are actually able to send it one fragment in each of the different technologies, and you are able to reassemble the packet and actually send an ACK in any network, and you are actually sending the data to the application. So, well, this is good for multi-radio devices, as you can have a single code base, and actually you make a bit more transparent what is the L2 layer. And actually, you can have some cheap fragmentation reassembly modes out of the box that you can use in other technologies if you need them. And you can converge a fragmentation reassembly layer. And well, I also think this is possible thanks to the compound ACK that actually help control the ACK size. I'm sorry I went so fast, but I really wanted to share this with you all. So, well, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just making sure. So you're trying to define the profile that will work everywhere, right? Kind of a star profile.
Yeah, exactly. I think that before this was not, we were not able to see this because we were actually working in per technology. But now with all the work that we've been done, we can see that actually these profiles are not that different in the fragmentation level, in the fragment header level, and that we can actually do something to converge them and actually reduce the amount of code in the device, and actually allow to transmit that you can transmit in different networks the tiles and actually converge in the application server or in the CHIC network server and reassembly all the packet there.
So you mentioned YSUN, and I guess YSUM was YSUN, right? That's the smart grid standard we talked about.
Yeah, it made,
that would be 15.4G, and so they don't really have any constraint in size. And we are looking at CHIC over PPP, same thing. I mean, we would not use size of 10 bytes, right? So if you just look at 2, it's a nice exercise. But as we reach out to do CHIC over real foo, and the foos will probably have very different MAC layers. And the adaptation of CHIC are really to adapt to the MAC layer constraints. So that will be much wider than it is today.
Yeah, well, actually here you can send messages by Wi-Fi, you can send tiles by any other technology because you are converging the fragment at the fragment level.
That's actually just one point here, and then I see also Laurent coming. At some point early on in the working group, we were discussing about the idea of having a default rule, having some kind of a default rules that would be able, that we can use for Bootstrap maybe, and then extend with additional rules eventually. So I find your work really interesting in that aspect, because it's basically at that point in time we decided that no, we cannot have this default profile because the technologies are so different. And now several years later we come up with and I find your work really interesting, very interesting, that we come up with something that's very close among the different technologies.
Exactly.
And so I find that interesting on its own. And then I think that something that could be interesting and maybe related to the FEC operation or not at all would be to have to send the fragments over different radio technologies, but like send the same fragment. So you send the same fragment over LoRaWAN and Sigfox or NB-IoT, and like for redundancy, right?
Yeah,
so
actually, I was talking about ACK on error, but you can have a similar thing for no ACK and actually ACK always in downlink.
So thank you, Laurent.
No, thank you.
Yes, I will say that's very interesting. So thank you for raising that. Just to answer to Pascal, I think that if we have the same tiles size on all the technologies, so we have something that can be compatible. Then we may have different timers for different technology to resend information. So maybe here it's it will be very complex to manage. But otherwise, that's very, very interesting to investigate that and can be very helpful.
Well, thank you very much.
So thank you as well, Sergio. It's really neat that you started this effort, and if you want to publish it as a personal submission, you know where you are. I mean, it's always interesting, and that remains as paper that we can access. So that would be very, very interesting.
Yes.
So with this, we're close to the end of the hour. So we were supposed to discuss a little bit about rechartering. So I gave you a hint of the two major directions, but if you have other ideas on things we could ask in the next chartering round, please post to the mailing list, and we'll consider it and discuss it on the mailing list. So with this, do we have any other business? Did we say it all about the SHIC draft? I mean, Alexander, I remember that you pretty much said your point. Anna, mostly as well, right? Did you have anything else to say about the SHIC Sigfox?
No, the only thing that we can say is that we'll have the problem that the Sigfox draft calls the Compound Act draft. So I was thinking about the working group last call. I don't know if we have a problem of because here is really formative, like standard, so they cannot put a reference to a draft. I don't know.
But see, you can always. I mean, the point is, if you have a normative reference, then your document will go through review, but it will be stuck at the RFC editor in a state where it is waiting for the other document to be RFC as well. But it's only when you have a normative reference. So, for instance, it's not impacting Laurent, who wants to reference informatively the architecture. But in this case, it would be a normative reference to Campanac. And yes, the two documents will go RFC together. But it doesn't matter. We can push them together or one after the other. Anyway, the editor, the RFC editor, will hold the publication until both are ready.
Okay, then for me, we can go with the last call if Sergio is.
Okay, so I write in the to-dos launch workgroup last call.
Yeah.
For SHIC over Sigfox. Okay. And the other to-do is well known. It's the review that Alexander has promised before next intro. Okay.
Yes.
So with this, we are all set. Any other business? I'm hearing none. So I thank you all for your participation, and that was effectively a great meeting. I will hold a little bit on the minutes before I publish them. So if you want to look at them and do a quick edit on something that was said, I will pick the Cody MD file in an hour or so. So please look at the notes that we took and fix them if we did wrong. Thank you very much, and talk to you next time.
Thank you, Pascal. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.